going from the land of good moves and how to deal with them, we're going to get to the obscure moves of Pokken. Hey, what's up, everybody? I mean, hello. Welcome back to the Jukem channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Pokken's obscure moves. There's obscure moves, and then there's bad moves. So I just want to put this out there right away. When I mean there's a bad move, it's not going to be, like, used at all. So you might think, okay, that's obscure enough, right? Well, some moves in this game are going to be so bad that they're very notable. That's the weird thing when it comes to how I'm judging these things on, like, how obscure a certain move is. And I think that's pretty fun, which is why I thought a video like this would be cool. The more I thought into this, because this wasn't actually my idea. But you know what? That's not the point. The point is we're going to be looking at Pokken's characters and their most obscure moves. There might be a few for certain characters, but I'll go over them and go in detail over not so much how to beat them, because no one's going to be using these moves anyway, but what their properties are, just for those who are, like, curious. And I know I'm curious too. I got the dock open right now to see all these moves. But yeah, our first character, obviously going in alphabetical order, is Aegislash. I pressed the B button. This character is very weird when it comes to this stuff because he has the shield stance and it has its own separate, like, move list. Now, there's a few moves I want to briefly mention that I kind of thought about. I guess I could talk about all of them and just, like, choose which one I thought was the most obscure. Another way I'm judging these things is, like, how often would you see them in a match? So for Aegislash, he has 6Y and 6YY. And wow, that was actually very delayed. Then he also has 8X. He has this. This is, like, called Shield 6X, I think it is. And then probably this move, I guess. Even though this, honestly, I think that one's out of the running just because this one is used a bit. And I just think, like, oh, it's laser. It's the same type of laser. It's not like this, but this is also used. I think I've settled on this move because I've definitely seen this move been used, like, maybe once, which is a lot more than the other one. And then this, like, a couple of times. There's moves that Aegislash has that fills these moves' purposes, but sometimes, like, someone will be like, oh, I want to do this because I think that makes him, like, high immune or something, so I guess someone would be interested. This move, though, I never see. And you might think, okay, why? It does do a lot of damage, but as you can also see, it's incredibly slow. He is off the ground, so he is immune to, like, lows and stuff while he's doing the attack. Oh, and apparently mid-lows according to this doc, but you can move around during it. It could be, it goes pretty far if you do that, but it's very slow, and I think you can even react to it with an anti-air. Yeah, it's kind of bad like that, and since he's in, yo, nice dodge, because he's in the air, he'll be able to get a full combo off for a lot of characters. But for Aegislash, it's like multiple bad moves, and I mostly went for the one that, while it does deal a lot of damage and it can be notable for that, I think it's definitely more niche compared to the other two because he's also in shield stance that he has to go into. And there's many other great moves because it's more limited than his other moveset in Blade mode. So he has a lot of other great moves that he would usually use to leave this stance, like Flash Cannon or Sacred Sword. These are the main two. But I've seen anti-airs with this. I've seen approaches like this, going through your dash. I've seen this occasionally. This is also, like, quicker, so it's like, I definitely think this one is much more obscure of a move that you'll never see in a match, no matter what, just because of how slow it is, even if it is strong. It is plus. That's neat. But, yeah, that's Aegislash. The Turtle Lad is here. Now, Blastoise is a similar case to Aegislash, but in the complete opposite of the spectrum. Blastoise being a kind of lower tier character, has some good moves, but a lot of them are also very slow, and sometimes you might not want to see them, but you're kind of forced to see them. But in this case, it's still a move that's pretty bad from what I've seen, but not notably bad because he has a lot of other moves that kind of obscure. Like, you'll be like, oh man, this move kind of is weird. Still used sometimes, it's actually safe on block, but the one I want to talk about today is actually a pretty cool move that doesn't get used a lot. Back Y. Back Y, it sets up these traps. And as you can see, it launches them into the air. Now, you can, I think you can combo off of the, oh, it actually does that if you hit them too much. But I think you can combo off of these. I hate this character. Fail. It's like the biggest character in the game as well. Well, either way, you're supposed to combo off of this. Sometimes it can be weird with how you want to do it with, like, a homing attack because, you know, Blastoise is like a slow boy. Like, he can't even make that. He could do that. Okay, and that's some decent damage, actually, for what it is. Now, another cool thing about this move is that if you're in Synergy Burst, is that he'll send out 3 of them. And if you hold the button, it spreads them out. Same thing without Synergy Burst, but it does spread them out if you do the hold button. I've seen this move be used in Field Phase more. I've seen this move be used a lot in Field Phase. But this move, not so much, even though it is a very cool concept for a move. Because personally, I love trap-based moves because it just limits my opponent. I could just do whatever. Blastoise kind of can't really take too much advantage of it because he's kind of slow. So like Sceptile is very quick and can take advantage of moving around his own traps. But It's not very notable because a lot, like I said, a lot of his other moves are also kind of weird that people would be like, oh my gosh, why is this move like this? Like, especially moves like this, which are like still strong, and because of how strong they are notable. But it's easier to land with them still compared to even this, even if it is covering space. I've seen like literally every other move on Blastoise that would be considered maybe obscure a tiny bit. This is like the only other move maybe that's kind of obscure, but I've seen people like complain about the move enough. Like when someone's trying to jump away because it's kind of slow, but people will like jump away in time because it's like, it's kind of a weird mid-low, even though it looks like it hits pretty high. But because I've seen all those complaints about that, I would agree that this is probably more obscure. Blastoise has a ton of projectiles, so I guess that may be also why it's like super competitive about which ones you'd rather use. Like, would you rather use this one or would you rather use this one? And these two could also be held to do different properties. And then you got Big Boy. Big Boy. Blaziken is another character that was pretty tough to figure out which moves are pretty obscure. I've seen many of his projectiles like this or this be used occasionally. Non-EX Brave Bird is not very used much at all. I've seen it used when it comes to like phase shifts after a wall splat to get in a lot quicker, even though it is pretty slow, so it might not even be worth it at that point. Oh, I guess he actually is pretty plus off that. But yes, the move I want to talk about actually is this one. Yeah, you might be thinking, oh, that's weird, I always do this. Well, that's not the move I'm talking about. I'm talking about this. Now, I don't actually know the practicality of this move, so I'm like looking at the doc because obviously these moves are so obscure I may not know everything about them. I'll have you know, I never knew this was a thing. If you hit this second hit, it crumples. I never knew this. If you do it like this, it's not gonna crumble because only the first hit, but like apparently that will happen and it's like a full combo. I actually want to see how much damage will this do. Not even that much damage for what it is, though. I guess it's decent. But wait, that's a crit. That should be a lot more, honestly. You're much better off just doing, like, if you see your opponent trying to jump, you do something like that. And, like, already, I didn't even finish the whole combo. I think it is, like, less minus. I think it's not punishable compared to what this is if you want to do it on block. But it's still -8 if I read it correctly. So, not the greatest still, and it's just very awkward. Because this is mostly a combo finisher move. I've never seen this move be used as a combo, like, maybe not combo starter, but like a poke in neutral, especially since it's a high and like sometimes people will be like, oh, I ducked it because screw you. And yeah, it's just, I never see this move at all. Like, it's funny when I see this move because I feel like this move is used a lot more than it should be because I feel like it is pretty easy to like deal with once you get the hang of it. It's less obscure than this because this was funny because this was also in an update that they added it to, and it's literally just an animation reuse from his forward Y. Apparently, it's also technically a Throw Crush. This is also a Throw Crush. But apparently, this second hit by itself is a Throw Crush. That's so weird and so obscure. So I guess it's fitting for the video. But yeah, that's basically the move. It's also not like the other part of the move where it's like immune to mid-highs and highs because it does like the flip kick. So it'll avoid it. And also, it's pretty far. I almost picked this move, actually, because no one uses it as well. Even though I do think it is pretty underrated. But it's a bad move, quote unquote, from Blaziken mains that is so bad that people know about it. So no, I never hear anyone talk about this move. Braixen, well, it's a bit simpler than the other three so far. Now, Braixen, being a top tier, has a lot of great moves, and that's why you would see these moves a lot in top level play. Like, all her projectiles are really good, super good in fact. I think the only weird one that's kind of dumb is like this one in Field Phase, but I've seen this used in certain matchups when it's like tough for those characters like, I guess, Machamp to get in against Braixen. There's two moves I had in mind for this slot. Fire Blast is kind of bad. I mean, it has its uses, but it's bad to the point where people know about it. And I've still seen it in certain combo routes that people want to do, like for resets. And then they can set up like this. I've seen that happen a lot before. This move, though, I've also seen for Fire Spin, but it's definitely not as common, and that is her 8Y. But Braixen has like a lot of good moves that can do anti-airs anyway. Like the big one is the big fiery blast button. So I've seen many Braixen players just do that instead of their actual anti-air. I've seen it occasionally, and that's what makes this like, it's easier for me to pick this one because it's obscure, but all her other moves are also super good. And I guess technically it's also like her worst move if I recall. Yeah, I think every one of her moves is like super good. It's just this one is not as good, and this one's like notable. So yeah, I'd have to go with her 8Y. How much damage can you get off the wall for this? That is so weird. I only got one hit off that. Oh my goodness. Though it's also only -8 apparently. So maybe, nah, there's probably better options you can do. Like literally just like 8x if you're trying to do pressure against someone. But you can't do silly stuff like this. Magneton, you're useful. Let's go. Now clearly this is the most obscure thing in her arsenal. No one's ever used this move. That move is kind of bad, not gonna lie. I think probably this move is a lot better. This move, definitely. Okay, but no, seriously, because I'm a funny guy with unfunny jokes. This move is terrible. It's literally the worst thing in the entire game, but it's very notable. And that made me confused on how to do this because all of her other moves are pretty good. The only two other options I had for this slot was her 4Y and her counterattack. But because it's her counterattack, while she does use this a lot of time, I've seen this occasionally. The only two moves I never see are this and this, though I've seen this quite a bit in the early days. So the CA was off the table for me. So between these moves and this move, these could be interchanged, but I think I will talk about... I paused right there so I can think about it off screen like I'm some like JRPG protagonist about to choose a different like quote route. Dude, this is just like Persona 5. This move, honestly, like this move is terrible and no one uses it in a match because it's terrible. It's so terrible that I just had to say that. Despite this move being used in some like sets I've seen over the years, it's been a while since I've seen them in sets, and I fought like current Chandelure players a lot, and I've never seen them use this move, which I find still decent because it's one of her quickest options and can be special canceled. Apparently this move is only -4 on block 2. This is -8. This one's -4 though. That's pretty good. It's I-15 and can combo into basically anything she has that is special cancelable. I think, can she even do this? Even if that, like, so that will like remove slight amount of synergy if you really need to. That's funny, but I guess it could be decent. But like, I guess the weird thing is you would think of doing this as like a get off me tool, but Shandy has multiple of those options like smog or minimize. But when you're dealing pressure against someone, you'd want to do it far away. So I guess that's why they meant to do this as like a tool when you're up close at like the wall and you're forced to attack, but you have so many other moves to get the opponent off you that, yeah, it just seems like it's very weird. Though I would say it's still better than whatever the frick this is. Now, I'm probably going to be sounding like a broken record here, but for this thing, remember, it's not bad moves. So this move is off the table because I've seen the flight stance. Like, you can cancel into it. It's technically Inferno right here. And also, I just heard it's just so bad. Also, this move has an entire metagame around it called Fire Move Footsies, so this is also off the table. The move I want to talk about, that move is Aegislash. Now, it does look pretty good. I think it's I-17, which is a very awkward number for one, I guess. It's just like a very obscure detail. It's like, wait, it's actually I-17. It's not even I-18. Compared to the other options, which were this, which I've seen used sometimes in combos and just like by itself, and also it's literally just his homing attack. I guess it could be kind of weird. It's just like, oh yeah, he has this in Duel Phase too. But I feel like because it's his homing attack, it gets a lot easier to like remember that it's just a thing he can do. And then this, but I feel like it's just like one of those fun moves people use a lot of the time because it can also be charged and just deal a lot of damage. But this move, literally, I've seen only used in certain combo routes, never as a starter, never as an anti-air projectile, which is, I assume, what they intended for it to be, honestly. Like, to be the main thing. It's like, oh, you can anti-air off of it and then maybe combo into Flare Blitz. Yeah, I think that's what they were supposed to be doing with it, because it can be canceled into with Flight Stance yet again if you hold the button. I think the only time I've seen this in an actual combo, now that I think about it more, is I used to see it in dual phase combos, like certain routes, but I haven't seen it that often, and I'd have to ask the Charizard mains if they still do it that, but the one combo I have seen it with quite a bit sometimes, the combo being that. Does a lot of damage, hurts yourself a bit, but you also win the face, so that means you know, get some of your health back. You only lose 15 health from that, basically. Pretty strong, all things considered, but that's like the only practicality I've seen from it. But yeah, Aegislash is definitely the most obscure one, which is also weird because it's also an A move, and those are usually the less obscure moves compared to something like this. Fun fact, this also has like field PSP, which is fun. Oh, that's weird. Apparently this move only, the Aegislash at least, kind of like Empoleon's 8Y, if you know that move, only hits in the air, which I guess makes sense. It does hit pretty high, but like most of the time, you hit them with the wings and they'll combo into it, which is funny, I guess. I guess it does go over his head. This is such a weird move. What isn't obscure about Croagunk? He's just so stupid. I think I settled it before, like in my little list as this move, but it's like kind of a meme move and it's part of his like RNG stuff. I think the move I think I'm settling on now is actually his field JY. It's not like these home in like this. So I think that's part of the reason why it's not used, though I have seen it a few times, admittedly, because it can be canceled into his gunk shot, and it's just like, oh, I want to cover projectiles with that. Or it can transition into his flow and then do it again, which is actually kind of cool, admittedly. The one cool thing about this character. Well, like, all his other moves are just so bad that they're so notable. Like you've heard of this move. You've heard of this move. You've heard of this move. Boom. This is a cool move. This is a very cool move, too. That doesn't need explaining. So, like, literally everything is either, like, so dumb because RNG, or so bad you know it. But this move is just weird, to say the least. This character is, like, one of the ones I know least about, too, like, besides, like, the RNG aspect, which I have a whole video about. So, some of the moves I may just forget about. This is a funny move, so this is definitely notable. Yeah, it's definitely this move. It's definitely this move. I've looked at his entire moveset. It's definitely this move. There's no other option. Would you like to throw Sludge at me? Except it doesn't home in, and it's, like, weird. I'm missing the Croagunk because he's so small. I think I'm turning this into a how bad is these moves actually video now instead of obscure. But, hey, this one fits both. So, like, you know what? Whatever. You can angle it, too. Oh, that's why maybe I was missing it before. Oh, that was. But then that second... Oh, my God. I really thought I was going to go for this move, and then I legit forgot this move existed. So... I guess that's just more proof that why I picked that. This character is actually just so obscure in general because he's never picked in tournament. Oh, I'm looking at the thing. Apparently that also doesn't KO, which, like, most of Croagunk's field projectiles don't KO, so that's nice too. Darkrai is another case where it was very hard to pick his moves because a lot of his moves are very good, even if he isn't considered, like, a high-tier character. He has plenty of good projectiles in field phase, especially with these that can be transformed into different things because of his nasty plot. And then when you get into Nightmare, it's like every move that you could think would be like, oh, it's kind of obscure to use this move when I'm not in Bad Dreams Rising. Well, when you're in Bad Dreams Rising, it's probably good. Like, obviously, all his Rift moves. But even then, some of his tools that when he's not in Bad Dreams Rising are still pretty decent. Like, this is good. And this is super good, since they both had Just Frames. But there's two moves Darkrai has that are in Field Phase that are kind of awkward. I want to talk about the one I didn't pick first, and that is this. Now, I've seen this move used, where it's just a net. But I've never seen the one where it's, like, in place a lot of the time. And I think that's just because this one is mostly, admittedly, only used in combos. Wow, it's actually pretty big. And it stays a while for a long time. How long does this wow, that lasts a while. That's a pretty, from my eyes, just like as a not Darkrai main, that seems pretty good. Though I could see why you'd want to use other moves. But that's not the move I picked because it's still kind of attached to this. So you can be like, oh yeah, I do have the option of doing this. And I've seen like mean setups against grapplers like Machamp, who is just like, here's a little house you live in. Because I set this up. No, this one is Sidewise. Phantoms being up is not uncommon for Darkrai. It's actually very common because it can also transform into other attacks. What is weird about this though is that it's his Sidewise. He doesn't do anything off of it. He can cancel it into other stuff, but most of the time you'd want projectiles that will be out and still have a hitbox so you kind of get protected a bit. So as you can see from this, that has an attack even after Nasty Plot. That does have an attack too, but it's in an awkward position where it's to your side. And actually, did you know you can hold the button and like the Phantom will appear like closer to you instead of just right away like this? I never knew that for the like longest while. It's also apparently immune to highs on frame 1 when you do it. So I guess that is a very good benefit to it, but it does leave him very wide open even if he can go into his different attacks. Though he does have Nasty Plot, so I guess if you see the opponent doing a homing attack against you, you could just do like blah. And also the Phantom Explosion may protect you too because this thing is a lot bigger than you would expect. The real downside of this move and why you never see it and why you don't really see it talked about too is because he has another move that sets up clones, which is a lot better. And that is just his release Y because it does it in place, does it a lot quicker, does it right on top of him, which is a lot of the time where you kind of want it to be. So it's used for protection. While this is immune to highs on frame 1, this is just complete invulnerability too. So it can be used to avoid attacks. Like I've seen Darkrai mains do this to like avoid timeout situations where they would get chipped out because they just dodged the attack, or they even dodge burst attacks because you could also use this move obviously in Duel Phase. That's why it's kind of outclassed, but since it's related to the clone anyway, that's why it's not one of those moves that is so bad people talk about it a lot. And like I said, it took me forever to realize, oh, I can hold the button. The fans also last forever. Wow, did they really not go away even after that? That's crazy. Attack from all sides of him. Don't give him any room to breathe. Farewell. All right, this Decidueye is pretty easy. I think the other option for this was this move. But I feel like that move has, like, still used a lot because Decidueye loves being in the air a lot. So he'll be like, okay, sometimes if I want to cover my landing, if I'm about to do something, like if I'm this high up, he'll do something like that. It is plus on block, so it's not entirely bad even if it doesn't do the most damage. And it's also just a visually, like, interesting move, which I can say a lot more than the other move, which is simply 8x. 8x can be angled and is a throw crush. But Decidueye has many other moves he'd want to do if out of a throw situation. Simple one being something like 2Y if he wants to be safe, or if he wants to be a little dangerous, go for a JY combo. But this move isn't really that good for an 8X, even if it is like better than certain other 8Xs, but it's not a very notable, terrible move. which is also why I pick it for this spot. I've seen this used more too, so like that helped with the deciding factor of this. And then of course, Decidueye is another top tier, so a lot of his other moves are just very, very good to do. Even if he does love being in the air a lot, he has amazing ground options as well. I guess another awkward one is kind of this one, because even though it is like used in a lot of combos, enders, it's still kind of weird. But this move is definitely very obscure because you have a million other projectiles as well in this phase. Like, would you rather use Spirit Shackle or this? Or this? Like, the other two options are clearly superior to it, even if this one can be hit in the air. But if you want to hit someone in the air, he has another projectile. Like, it's kind of a risky one too. So it's like faster. So like, it does more damage. And if you do have them stay in the air, you do the little Magnemite thing on the bottom too. So here's my ranting more about how bad this move is and why no one uses it except for one person, and that is Munster. I've seen this move quite a bit from his streams, but every other Decidueye I have not seen it used, so that's why I count it for this spot. Shoutouts to Munster, the best Zato player in Guilty Gear Strive. Alright everyone, it is serious time. Now, Empoleon, my beloved. I play him a lot, obviously. So I have a hard time knowing which move to put in this spot because I know his bad moves, which are funny bad moves, and then his good moves are the ones I use all the time. So I'm struggling here. I think I was originally going to do 5Y, but it's another, like, this is so bad people know about it. So it's not really obscure. It has, like, one use, and that's only in burst mode. It's like a mix-up tool on block. But otherwise, every other move I use a lot. Same case for AY. This move's just so bad, and Empoleon players are just like, oh, AY. Funny button. Two so bad button. So I think the only other option I have is JY in field phase. And that's just because it's not a bad move. Faster opponents can get around it, and it does go at 3 different angles. He throws it from right to left, as you can see, and you can use like slide off of it and like even be able to combo off of it if you do it off slide, which is pretty cool. I've hit people with that before, and I still use it sometimes in certain matchups where characters would like to use their side Y to like avoid an attack, and then they get hit by one of the side pillars. You don't really hit the side pillars too often besides that, but that is a case where they are pretty useful. It is attached to this JY though, which I use all the time, so it's very weird. And the only other move I could really think to compete with this is 6YY, but I use 6YY in a bunch of combos too, even if it is pretty terrible at using by itself, especially against certain characters who can just use DPs. Wait, no! So, I've had a breakthrough, and I forgot this move existed. So, you know he has this move, right? And he has this attack if you don't hold the button to slide. Well, how about this? This is a move I wanted to use for a while now in my little mix-up stuff, because if you are to land a 2X, you can combo into... That's a hit. It did 0 damage. I forgot about it, even though I've wanted to put it in my gameplay. And I spent the past like 30 seconds talking about how JY is actually the most obscure thing in his toolset. But no, I forgot this move existed, and I'm the Empoleon main who wants to use it more. Dang, I should have just picked this. What do I even call it? It's literally just a slide, whatever. But yes, this is a hit that does 0 damage. It doesn't combo. Like, as you can see there. Now, you might be wondering, okay, why would I want to do that then? Well, it does have a few uses, in which is why it's not a bad move, but it's definitely super obscure, is that it's another state. You can only block it or get hit. And, well, when you're sliding, you can go into Hydro Cannon. So it's either you take a bunch of chip damage that leaves you at 0, or you take 160 damage flat out, lose the phase, get knocked down, and Empoleon has a bunch of great Oki options. So... yeah, wow, I totally forgot about this move. My brain literally exploded when I realized, oh wait, I forgot about this move. Have you ever just wanted to slide into someone? Because you don't even have this in duel phase. You just push them. It's just in field phase. I will say this move has like saved me a few times by accident because I forgot about it, because I usually would like want to do something like this. But you know, if it like is a thing and it's just there, you might as well take it, even if it does 0 damage. So, you know what? Great move. It's so obscure, I don't even think it's in the frame data doc. That's so funny to me. Guess we'll have an update for the doc for once, just because of this, if someone wants to add it. Okay, so Garchomp is a rough, tough, and shark boy lad torpedo thing, and he has a bunch of moves, even though he's not really a top tier character, that are super useful and you'll see plenty of in a match. The only two I want to talk about, which are his only frame 11 moves, if I recall, are his 8Y and his 2Y, and this was very tough to pick because these both aren't really used at all, even though they are frame 11. You would think, okay, yeah, these moves are probably used all the time. No, they're not. I think this move is safer than the other move, and that is why I've seen it a lot more in actual matches when someone wants to get like a little punish on something that's -12. So it's just like, oh, I could get some punish. But I never see this because I think it's just a weird type of hit. And it's also unsafe on block, unlike the other one. Because of that, I've decided to go with this. And this is his anti-air too, by the way. But his anti-air is very weird in that when you do jump, it only knocks them down. Can you even get? No, you can't. So I don't think you can combo at all unless they're maybe at the wall. And even then, I think you can only go into another I-11, so you're most likely just going to be doing that. What you can do with it, though, the combo, is do it on grounded hits, which I find hilarious. It doesn't even give that much damage, and it's punishable on block, so you'll never see it. But I never also see it talked about being like, oh man, it's so bad. Because Garchomp mains will use what they want to use to do big boy damage all the time. So like for a Grab Crush, this is also unsafe like 8Y, but it's also super strong, gets a full knockdown, and he's prepared to do Oki options like, hello, would you like to deal with this? So it kind of covers the base for what an 8Y would be. And you know, 8Y is also used for anti-airs, and this is also a free one anti-air. So it kind of beats that out, and like I said, no one really talks about the move otherwise, even if I have seen it like once in the blue moon, but I've seen this way more for like simple punishes. It being an anti-air that's mostly just better at doing grounded combos just makes it too weird for other Garchomps to really use. But hey, at least this is a fast poke, I guess. Gardevoir has a lot of good tools all around, so not really tough for me to decide which one I want to use. The only two options I really had are her 4X, which is used in some shield break setups, and it's a super notable move just because it's just like, I can charge it up and kill you in like one hit, which is also just part of the shield break setups. But you know, that's not the point. But the point is, I want to talk about this move. Now, if you were to ask me in 2016, when this game first came out, I was saying like, oh yeah, this move is sometimes used in combo purposes, even though I'm struggling to really do it. But yeah, I've seen this move used in combos, and there's probably other routes, because especially you can combo into this, which is a very notable combo I remember seeing a lot of. Maybe not that finisher, but going into Energy Ball. But the more that Gardevoir has been evolved and through patches, I've seen this move used less and less through combos. If you were to ask me in 2016 what the move I'd probably pick, probably this move. This move's just would have been so bad, but now it's just like one of her greatest moves because it didn't used to knock down like this back in Wii U days. But ever since, this move has just been something I forget about, and I fought many Gardevoir in my time, and I never see this move at all. So as you can see here, Speen, she does have a lot of knockback. Like, I'm doing it that late. That's a... Wait, that put them in the air? I never knew that could happen. Okay, but that's funny. But, like, besides the weird thing, I guess, right there, it does have a lot of spin, does knock them down if they are about to fall like that. And generally, it's just mostly used for the combos. But if it's one thing, it's the combos, and it's been taken away from you, then this move is just so obscure, you never see it, and it's not really complained about at all because, like, you know, you have other options, so it's just like, why would you even think about this move at all, even for the Gardevoir players? It's not even a funny, like, failing move. It's not something like Charizard's Inferno, where it's, like, funny bad. It's just kind of bad. Oh, wouldn't you know, it's also punishable on block. Ain't they just fine and dandy? No wonder no one uses this move. Gengar has several moves that have made me wonder, like, how obscure are these, like, in comparison to one another? The first move I thought of was his forward Y, because it is a pretty bad move, but it's just like, you know, the design of it is just like, oh, he goes into the ground and has the little haunting thing, so maybe people would remember it for that. This other move, I've seen used sometimes, so I decided, okay, probably not this move. Same with this move. And then there's the one that's like, it's a 5Y. It's a 5Y, so you'd expect it to be like, oh, it's very simple. And it's kind of notable just because he sticks his tongue out like that. So I really mostly had a hard time between forward Y and 5Y for most obscure, but I think I settled on 5Y because, at least in this phase, you can use other projectiles to maybe cover if you do decide it. Like, I've seen a few times people will do this move. But in this one, I haven't really ever seen anyone do 5Y at all because Gengar likes being in the air a lot. And his other decent options also kind of put him in the air a lot, or could at least get him to be in the air. Like, he could do his usual Airbnb after doing this attack. Like something like that. I don't know how to do Gengar combos. And then his other grounded moves are used in combos like this, or to put up a lot of pressure like this. And the same applies for his different specials. But this move is just very bad, and no one really talks about it, and no one ever uses it. Now, let me go into the specifics of this move. Obviously, this is 5Y. Goes into a simple Poke combo. Problem is, the Poke combo only goes into Shadow Ball. He can't do Shadow Punch. That whiffs. Even at the wall, where you would expect it to maybe hit, can hit some of these, but not the final hit. So I guess if you want to go for a decent amount of damage right on, because it does do a lot of damage, admittedly. Like 139, I think it said before that, is pretty good, especially, and also after Shadow Ball too. That's 119. Pretty decent damage for what it is, though. I think it is like 4 PSP, which is pretty weird, and the range isn't really that good. Not used at all, and that's pretty much all I can say, because there's this tug. Gengar is all tongue, not gonna lie. I don't know what to say for these things. I feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over again. It's like, that is why this is weird. Because I have nothing else better to say than say my repeated phrases over. Like I'm a freaking anime side character who has his little quirks. Lucario, the stupid aura dog of everyone's nightmares when he goes into burst mode. Lucario, also really good character in this game, has many moves that are very notable. One of them, the one I picked here, is also very notable for being very bad, and that is his Aura Sphere. I think the only thing I'm going to be talking about is that it's just never used a lot, and that's why it's kind of in this place, because all his other moves are just so good in comparison to it, and that they're used in like every match. Like this covers high range, this goes pretty quick forward, this like freaking DP and field phase, and then of course all the dual phase ones. I could go on and on about how all his good moves are, but this kind of bad, not gonna lie. This can be used either as the one or as charge version, which splits, as you can see there. It does leave him very punishable if you do block it, like super punishable, like even more punishable than I think if you block this from point blank, maybe. But the quirky thing about this move is that in field phase, it does lock on when you do this. Like, look at that. And as you can see there, it goes pretty far. I did not know until recently that this goes full screen, like super far. So I guess this just helps like point of it's very obscure even though it's like known for being a pretty bad move. Cause like what other move would I put here? This is like half me just trying to figure out like, am I sure I'm picking the right spot, or like is there like something else I'm missing like barely? I guess this is kind of weird, but no, that's using like combos and like mix-ups. No, this is as much as I have to work with for Lucario. So, forearms of Machamp, and with his forearms, he has many moves. I legit had to go in training mode for a bit before, just to remember all his moves, and a lot of them are actually pretty useful, even though he's, you know, basic grappler, can die to zoners pretty easily, but also kill zoners really easily if he does get in, and just, well, anyone in general. For this list, I thought of 2 moves in particular, and that is probably the one I'm not going to pick. Is Heavy Slam, because this one's never used, but it's just so notable because it's just like, I'm big boy jumping at you, and it has an enhanced mode. And it's just like a fun move to use and like probably casual stuff. But the other move that like it was kind of tough to decide honestly is it's probably his Sideway. His Sideway is very slow, doesn't do much damage, does have like no scaling, so you can combo into it, like do 120 damage like that, but it's so slow you'll never get hit by it, so you'll never see Machamps ever do it. You'll see Neutral I use just because it's a lot faster, it's a single one, and he gets out of it a lot quicker. The only thing this can be cancelled into is Forward Y. Not even like a special. Unlike something like that. You'll mostly probably see this move in combos, like I think this. Or something too. I've seen that happen before. That's like the only time I've ever seen Sidewide though, is the thing. So that's when you know it's pretty weird. Like, you're failing pretty hard when I'm missing some of them when at point blank range. I don't even know what else to put for this one, just because you'll see that Machamps do certain moves occasionally to throw you off. Like, they'll do this from, like, mid-screen. So I'm very confident in saying that this is probably Machamp's most obscure move. You know, I'm starting to realize that a lot of characters in this game, because I've recently been just saying, like, man, this character has a lot of good moves, but there's only like 1 or 2 moves in particular that are just so weird that you never see them use. It's just like, wow, this game is very good with like its move design, except for like certain characters, but we'll get there when we get there. For Mewtwo though, he's one of those characters where a lot of his moves are very good, but the only one I want to talk about real quick is his 8X. 8X is something you'll never see. If someone wants to grab crush you with Mewtwo, they'll probably just do IED-JY into a full combo, because I think even on crit, the only thing you can get off of this is I-11 moves. And that's still decent damage. On the bright side, he does go into the air, so on frame 5, he isn't immune to lows, but that's pretty much it for, like, unique stuff. It's not even, like, a comboable 8X, like some others are. It doesn't even get a knockdown like someone like Gardevoir's would. The only other 2 weird ones that, like, I've seen actually used, but, like, not as often as his, like, other moves are his 5IY and his 5X. But, like I said, I've seen them, but I never see this. It's just, like, an awkward thing. I think it's, like, mostly just Mewtwo's already pretty good because it's, like, he has all the tools to deal with even bursted opponents. So you're like, okay, what 8X should we give? Probably just something like this. Just something, like, even though it kind of looks cool, kind of pointless, and no one will ever use it. And it's to the point where not even many people mention it as being like, oh, yeah, it's, like, his bad move, even though he has, like, all good moves otherwise, or decent at least. Now, Pikachu is a weird case. Pikachu is probably the character I've played against the least in this entire cast. I know what moves not to pick. Both the good ones that are used very often, and this move, which is bad to the point where Pikachu's actually complained about it a lot because it's like, oh my god, it's the bad back Y button. And I honestly don't know what to do besides that. The only other thought I had for these 2 buttons are Release Y, which is a Release Y, so that's why I'm thinking, oh, it's not really used too much, but I have seen it a little bit. And then I'm trying to remember, how often have I seen Neutral Y? I mostly see Side Y, and I mostly see Forward Y, which I honestly thought was Neutral Y for the longest time. But if I thought that was Neutral Y, and this is actually the Neutral Y, even though it can go into it actually, which is funny. And into, I think, other moves. Wait, does this Thunderbolt, like, reach the opponent before? It does. That's funny. I guess I would just pick Neutral Y in that case, because I feel like this is still, like, big button. People would find it funny, and I've seen it sometimes, because that's a frame 1 anti-air. But then Neutral Y is just kind of like a standard, I shoot through projectiles that are kind of linear, not even that big. Don't even deal that much damage. Do they even... I guess they don't scale at all. Wait, does the last one scale? Oh yeah, that last one scales. That's funny. Even less reason to use this move, and that's why I didn't even know anything about it beforehand. But it's just like, I forgot this move existed. Just because it's kind of simple, but also not really the good simple. I'm very inexperienced with everything, as I mentioned, so it's super awkward for me to choose between the two, but I'll go with this one. But just know that even though it's a frame 1 anti-air, I still haven't seen this move used too much. I've seen it in combos sometimes, so I guess I would really honestly just go with this. Unless I'm told otherwise by all the Pikachus in the comments. Ah, Pikachu Libre, the dumbest character in this game where everyone wish it was Hawlucha instead. I don't even really care for Hawlucha as much as a lot of other people would, but either way, Pikachu Libre, all her field moves are pretty good. So it's mostly the dual phase we want to focus about, and a lot of them are still about either pressuring the opponent or being good at combos. Now there's a one move in particular that I feel like does not do either of those, and that is 2XX. First one is immune to mid-highs and highs on frame 1, so it can be used to anti-air, and I've seen some Libres use it occasionally for that. First hit is punishable on block, being -12. The second hit, funnily enough, is actually -8, I'm pretty sure. But then there's, like, the fact that even if you want to use it for anti-airs, you have your godlike 8Y that can be angled and go into a full combo. But that is why I've never seen this move, and, well, because it does have its somewhat use of being an anti-air, no one really talks about it too much, and it might be better than I think, honestly. But I never see it, so therefore, very obscure, and this one was pretty easy, honestly, just because she's a top tier, so all her moves are super good. It's just, this is the exception that I see, at least. Let's get knocked down, at least, if you want to go for that. Did you get a wall combo off of it? That's a janky combo. I guess it only works on smaller characters. Decent damage, I guess, for not being a phase shift. Certain other moves are kind of weird, or something like this, or that, but I've seen those used in combos too. So even though those are kind of weird, those are, you know, still good for what their purposes are. Just that this one's weird. Sceptile, I didn't know what to do this for. All his moves are super good. I use literally every single one of his moves, except for this, but it's one of those notably so bad, it's, you know, notable. I think the move I want to talk about for this is his back line. His back line is somewhat of a move people thought was bad, but it turned out to be really good. But I think it's still not being used as much as I wish other people would be using it for. I see it sometimes, and I definitely would like to see a lot more of this movie used because it has several properties, and I'm going to be here forever because I will mention all the properties of the moves I talk about. So let's see, let's start off. This move can attack. If you do it twice, it knocks them down like this, which, funnily enough, gives you enough time to finish the move. And when you finish the move, you get health, you get synergy, and throughout the entire move, it lowers debuff time quite a bit. And this could be very useful for something like if you do Leaf Storm, because then you get yourself an attack debuff. If you want to try to give yourself cover, you could do that, do something like that. But there's still many other uses for this move. You saw one of them. I can do a dash cancel out of it. I can do a jump cancel out of it. And when it does do the hit, I can combo off of it. I didn't mention I would do burst stuff, but I can combo into better stuff in burst, including burst attack. This move just has so much to it, and I'm pretty sure I'm even missing a few. Like, I think it's like high immune too, because he ducks. The final hit has its own separate hurt box, because while this is a low, the final one is actually a mid, if I recall. It's very weird, but it's also super obscure, and even though it has all these things towards it, still not used too much. Though I think I and a few other Sceptiles are making it like slowly more and more like not as obscure, even after all these years. Well, let me tell a little story first for like showing you how obscure this move is. The whole debuff lowering thing was not figured out until like 2 years after the game, like in 2018 when DX was already out. We were like, was this a thing since Wii U? I think it was. I didn't learn anything. I could only assume it was. But then we just go into this handy dandy menu, and this is how we found out. We go into this handy dandy menu, and we find out that it says back Y. It reduces time remaining on own negative statuses. It doesn't even mention the other things. That's just how, like, they just gave this move so much for some reason. And of course, on block, if you realize you block, you could just be like, oh, okay, I'll just run away. I could go on about this move. Don't know if there's other stuff. There might be, honestly. So yeah, in summary, this move has a lot, and it's just not known because it's weird. Oh, so apparently its high immunity is frame 1, which makes sense. But also, it's a throw crush, because why not? And now we're going to get to the character where like half his moveset could possibly be a spot for this video. Should I just say the entire character? Probably. You know what? Let's just go over all the moves. This one's not used. This one isn't used. This one isn't used. This one isn't used. I actually don't want to just use the combos. This one isn't used. This one isn't used. You know why? Because the character's entirely CA dependent on functioning correctly. But there is a single move I want to talk about that I did not mention in all of those moves, and that is 5X. 5X is a low It's -4 on block, so it's not that bad, I guess, on block, but it's a low. And that is very difficult when you're up close against Scizor, because a lot of times Scizor will want to do counterattack. And when you see counterattack, it might be good to try to jump over him for certain characters, trying to cross him up so he's aiming in the wrong direction, or just try to mix up your landing so he's just like awkwardly in different positions, like trying to CA over and over again to catch your landing, or other stuff. So on hit, you could definitely see that, you know, it launches him into the air. If you press a button, you can combo it even off the ground, which is pretty cool, admittedly. And then go in the air if you really wanted to. Wow, that fell out. That's sad. But otherwise, it's a very slow move and still not very useful up close, even with other options. Like this move, I've seen sometimes up close because it's like 0 on block, even if it's not the best hit. But it's a lot quicker. And just in general, I was having a problem with all these moves so much, like all these moves. And I had to ask Tech himself about, like, hey, what do you think is the most obscure thing? And he just said 5x. And it's funny because I actually forgot 5x existed. I literally mentioned all the other moves to him. And to myself, like, okay, I remember all these moves, and I forgot 5x. So, yeah, I think it's a fitting place for it. Oh, and then one last final thing, I guess, for it is that it's high immune. On frame 13, of all things. So, I guess he's, like, technically ducking down then, but, like, it's just so weird how it's just that late into it, and it's, like, never going to be a factor in most situations. And that is why it's just so obscure, even though it kind of looks very visually, like, impressive. He's just, like, punching the ground to launch them. And as a thank you for Tech, I just want to say, U-turn isn't bad. 8x for the same reasons as Mewtwo. Please go back to Mewtwo section if you want a refresher. Well, yeah, this move is, you know, it's very similar to Mewtwo's 8x. But what's different about this 8x compared to Mewtwo's is that on crit, it actually does lead to something else you can do. And it actually does a lot more damage. But a lot of the time, this is still an obscure move that you won't see them use because they would rather do something simple like this. Because you know why? It also leads to this and is generally a lot safer because while this is also like Mewtwo's where it's immune to lows for on frame 5, I think, for a bit, but it's just a lot slower compared to something that's like more reliable that gets you more out of the way much quicker, like this. Though, honestly, I did not know it did that much damage, so I guess that's actually a good thing about it, but it's still very slow and very, very weird. Doesn't matter if it's a Throat Crush when you have a million other options you could do, just like Mewtwo. Not just Mewtwo, there's a lot of characters I've mentioned that are like that. It's just like, you know, why do this when I could be doing something else? You gotta design a move so it has its own unique purpose, and when those moves have overlap with each other and one move just does a job better, almost everything, than another move, then you're in an awkward position. But yeah, that's why that move is honestly super obscure, and Mewtwo, like I said, top tier. All his other moves are fantastic. Suicune, just like Blastoise, has a bunch of moves where, even though it's lower tier, are generally useful in what you want to do in an actual match, even though he's also kind of like CA happy. But he has a lot of other good moves. Like, I think the only move I'd really think about putting on this list is this, if it was like pre-patch. Because pre-patch only had the first hit, so no one would ever use it. But this move is used from time to time now. I also considered Hydro Pump, even though it can be canceled, so it's another buff he had where you can cancel and fake it out. But the reason I mostly didn't want to put this on is when you do Mirror Coat, it's also basically just Hydro Pump except it pierces now. So that's mainly why I didn't want to put it, even though I still probably wouldn't put it on here even without that considered. Technically a different move, but same visuals. 2 I really did not know what to do about is 4Y. Because I feel like I haven't seen that move too often anymore, though I do think it's still a good move. So for this list, I wanted to go with 2Y. 2Y was also buffed, like these two moves mentioned before. Do you know what they changed? This move used to not be a block string, but now they made it a block string for 30 damage. That's a fantastic deal, I would say so myself. But yes, this move I really see from time to time, I guess, if you want a very quick move, because it is frame 11. I think apparently this is also frame 11, so never mind. This move actually kind of beats it out. I thought it was like frame 15, but if it's just as fast as this move, even if this one is punishable, I would still probably do that one in like close scored situations where you think the opponent's gonna press something, or just as a good tool, because I think on crit this also like launches them for a full combo. Yeah, okay, that's pretty decent for what it is, but for this one, it's just like, this is all you really get, honestly. And that's mostly because the first hit, I think. Like, it's not even special cancelable to make up for it, at least a tiny bit. And actually, I'm stupid. This move is used a lot in combos. What am I even talking about? Yeah, this move's easy. It was notable before because it wasn't a block screen, but they already changed that. So it lost any sort of, like, notable thing about it because now it's just a basic, like, 2Y that is not used at all. And yeah, all the other Suicune's moves are used at least somewhat. And then the ones that, like, are pretty weird are either buffed to where they are used, or are part of another move, or are sometimes used to mix up the opponent. That was actually a lot easier than I had in mind because I don't think 2Y was even on my list yet, but then I'm like, oh wait, that move exists. You know, when I just remember the move in the middle of a recording, maybe I should just go with that move right away and not even debate about it. Okay, for 2Y. Okay, well, I guess I spoiled it a bit. I didn't even mean to do it. I swear, that wasn't part of the joke. But I wanted to mention it's just funny because I'm having these last 2 spots as both 2Ys. So I guess what this move is, just like Suicune's, it's high immune. I forgot to mention that. So because, you know, it's a 2Y. And it's also a 2-part. It doesn't combo. I actually don't know if this is another sort of thing where, you, like Blaziken or Empoleon, where you can only block it after or get attacked. So let's test this out. Oh, wow, that's actually trash. But it's also still kind of niche, because even though it doesn't combo normally, it doesn't crit. And you can do sort of fancy stuff like that. So I do definitely think it's an underrated option, but it's definitely one you never see Weaviles ever use. Because current Weaviles just like to use a certain amount of moves, like Icicle Crash, or like fast moves that are like longer range. Or if you hold back, this move is the same as this move, but faster. And it's the same speed as this, I-11. So you usually just like get a bunch of different combos. But yeah, I do like this move because it is like, oh, you can only do it on a crit, which is a little easier to do because it is frame 11, so it'll throw crush. But Weaviles are very energetic with how they play, like going in the air all the time or like nose diving all over the place, flinging themselves around, lunging themselves, doing taunt like a little freaking gremlin that they are. So this move probably doesn't match their playstyle at all, and if they were going to, they would do 5Y, and that's kind of why it's obscure. No one really uses it because they're just like, oh, 5Y or 4Y. Ah, lovely combos. But yeah, I guess that's the entire cast and like all their most obscure moves, in my opinion. If you think there's another obscure move that you think I missed, that's probably more obscure than the moves I mentioned because I totally forgot about them. I mean, some of them I may have considered, but then I'm just like, no, this move is still like, you know, more obscure, but I won't bring it up at all. But yeah, I hope you all had fun learning about Pokken's random moves. This is not a practical video in the slightest, but it's a fun one because, you know, speaking about a lot of different fun moves like Blaziken 6X, or I guess this one, which is a pretty fun move in itself, Swipey Swipe, is very cool and learns more about the characters. And, you know, occasionally maybe you will see a move like this in bracket and you'll be like, oh my goodness, it's that move from Jukem's video. And you just realize, oh wait, I know what it does. It's not like I don't know how to fight against it a little bit. You know, I didn't really mention any counters to them, but you know. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that video. I'll see you guys next time for more Pokken content, and look at him groove. See you.